In the 1840s, the world was shrinking. We open high above the Liverpool docks. A dense forest of wooden ship masts pierces a smoky gray industrial sky. Below, the harbor is crowded, merchant vessels packed shoulder to shoulder, brick warehouses hugging the waterfront, and the cold surface of the Mersey broken by constant movement. On the wet cobblestones at dawn, dock workers' boots splash through puddles. Thick ropes and chains coil across the ground. In the half-light, figures bend and strain, unloading crates and barrels from towering hulls. Don't forget, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into hidden history. This is Liverpool at the height of the British Empire, not just another port, but something far more important. In this era, industrialization is no longer a local phenomenon, it is a global machine, and every machine needs a heart to pump its lifeblood. During the 1840s, Liverpool functioned as the primary artery of that machine. We see a panoramic sweep along the waterfront, long rows of brick warehouses, multiple masted ships moored side by side, seagulls circling overhead, coal smoke drifting above the river. Text appears, painted on the side of a weathered warehouse: Liverpool, the imperial node. Inside a dark dockside warehouse, shafts of light cut through dusty air. Wooden beams rise overhead like a cathedral of commerce. Stacks of crates, barrels, and bundles reach toward the ceiling, while workers move in steady rhythm below. While other cities produced goods, Liverpool facilitated existence. This was the gateway to the global machine, the node that connected the industrial interior of Britain to the furthest reaches of the Atlantic and beyond. We look out over the Mersey. Small rowing boats ferry people to larger anchored ships. On deck, sailors coil thick ropes, the worn planks beneath them glistening with spray. Beyond, the faint outline of Liverpool's skyline, chimneys, church spires, and endless masts. To understand the 1840s, you must understand a city in constant motion. Every crate, every bale of fiber, every finished product, all passing through this specific geographic point. If the empire was a body, Liverpool was the valve that controlled its pulse. Now we split the screen. On the left, Manchester, a dark, smoky interior of a Victorian textile mill. Rows of spinning machines, cotton dust hanging in the air, child workers and adults laboring under the dim glow of oil lamps. On the right, Liverpool, open, windy docks, cranes swinging ships arriving and departing in an endless cycle. In the Victorian landscape, these two cities existed in a symbiotic yet hierarchical relationship. Manchester was known as the workshop of the world, the place where raw materials were transformed into wealth. But the workshop could not function on its own. Liverpool was the node. A node is more than a dot on a map. It is a point where systems intersect, where flows converge, where power is leveraged. We see a trade map. Arrows move from the cotton plantations of the American South across the Atlantic to Liverpool. From Liverpool, thinner arrows stretch inland to Manchester. For the Industrial Revolution to thrive, raw cotton had to arrive from the American South. This was the essential fuel for Manchester's mills. On the docks, huge cotton bales swing from wooden cranes, thick ropes creaking under their weight. Dock workers in worn caps and coats guide them to the pier. The sources describe Liverpool as the crucial entry point for this cotton. Without this node to receive, store, and redirect it, Manchester's machines would have fallen silent. The dependency was profound. We move inside a Manchester mill again. Long rows of spinning frames, the constant mechanical clatter, fibers floating in the air. Every thread, every spool, every finished textile in this room relies on cotton that first passed through Liverpool's warehouses. So how did these two giants stay connected? We pull back to a bird's-eye view of northwest England. Winding canals snake across the landscape. A bold, straight line of railway cuts through countryside, linking Liverpool on the coast with Manchester inland. The flow of trade needed more than ships. It required an inland infrastructure, precise, reliable, and relentless. Manchester's survival depended on a constant flow of goods through canals and railways. We see a canal boat loaded with cotton bales, moving slowly along a narrow waterway, pulled by a horse on the towpath. Then we cut to iron rails stretching into the distance at dawn. Chief among these links was the Liverpool and Manchester Railway. An 1840s steam locomotive bursts into frame, steam pouring from its stack, wheels hammering the rails as it crosses a stone bridge. Opened just a decade before our focus period, this railway was one of the first true intercity links powered exclusively by steam. It did more than move passengers. It moved the lifeblood of an empire. Inside a third-class carriage, workers ride between Liverpool and Manchester on wooden benches, their clothes dusted with cotton and coal. Outside, factories, fields, and canals flicker past in a blur. The system worked in both directions. Raw cotton flowed inward, finished goods flowed outward. We return to Liverpool. Inside an export warehouse, stacks of neatly packed textiles fill the room. Workers stamp crates labeled with destinations: India, China, Africa, the Americas. Liverpool was the transition point where British labor became global capital. On the dock, cranes swing crates marked with foreign ports into the holds of waiting ships. Sailors secure the cargo, officers check manifests. Each crate carries not just cloth, but the economic reach of an industrial superpower. We see a large nautical chart laid out on a table. Routes fan out from Liverpool across the world, to the United States, to the Caribbean, to India, to China. Lines are drawn by hand, ink still drying. By the mid-1840s, Liverpool was no longer just a British port, it was a global imperial node. We pull back to a wide-angle reconstruction of the 1845 skyline. Massive brick warehouses of the Albert Dock, tall chimneys belching smoke, hundreds of masts clustered along the river's edge. From the cotton plantations of the American South, to the mills of Manchester, to the markets of India and China, all of it, at some point, passed through this city. We move through the Albert Dock, iron columns, timber floors, and closed water basins where ships lie still within brick walls. Workers push heavy carts, mooring rings are bolted into worn stone. The Industrial Revolution, we're reminded, was not just about steam engines or looms. It was about the systemic hook, the ability to move things, to move resources, to move products, to move power. And Liverpool provided that hook. We see a montage, a steam locomotive rushing across a viaduct, a sailing ship leaving the Mersey, warehouses stacked with cargo, a gas-lit dock at night, silhouettes of cranes and rigging against a deep blue sky. This was the indispensable gateway that allowed the global machine to turn. When we look at the 1840s, we don't just see ships and smoke, we see a primary artery pulsing with cotton and coal, with people and capital. We see the place where the world met the workshop, where raw material from one continent became manufactured goods on another, where the modern era of global trade truly began. The image fades to the blackened silhouette of the Liverpool harbor at twilight. Ships and warehouses are reduced to shadow. Text appears in stark white: Liverpool, the imperial node. If you want more deep, visually driven stories about how the modern world was built, hit subscribe, tap the bell, and join us for the next chapter of the global machine.